And a very pleasant good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of JMU Sound Off. It is a victory Sunday for the Dukes because they dispatched Georgia Southern 35-10 in a rain-soaked Bridgeport Stadium. Very happy that the sun is shining today and that I am indoors because I feel like I'm still drying out from yesterday's Parents Weekend win for the Dukes. They moved to 3-1 on the season, 1-0 in the Sun Belt Conference. A great way to kick off their Sun Belt slate, and they will head on the road this week to Atlanta for a matchup with Georgia State. We're going to break down yesterday's win as well as preview their matchup against the Panthers. But as always, we want to start with a shout out to our sponsors. First of all, Skyline Financial Partners. We had a chance to see Tim Nelson and crew yesterday. Did a little bit of a bonus food review on our accounts. Remember that you can empower your family for lasting financial success at SkylineFinancialPartners.com. Champions Drive Bourbon. Remember, every bottle of Champions Drive that is purchased goes to support student athletes at JMU in our pursuit of championships. You can find a ABC store location by you at abc.virginia.gov. Great to see so many bottles of Champions Drive yesterday in the tailgate lots. Where's Woody? Remember that you can get 25% off the entire Where's Woody shop when you enter promo code SoundOff25 for 48 hours after every Sound Off episode. Have a Where's Woody shirt on right now. Where'swoody.com. Purple Nation, not only a great site for all things JMU, but now have stores in Midlothian, the west end of Richmond, coastal Virginia, northern Virginia. The holidays are right around the corner. I know I'm going to be stopping by the Purple Nation location in Midlothian this week to give you a little bit of behind the scenes look at that new location. So as always, thank you to Carol Bonassi and everything she does at Purple Nation. Shoker Enterprises, the Dead Meat Society, want to recognize our tailgater of the week, which was Eric Kuster. One of the best tailgate spreads I've ever seen yesterday. So shout out to Eric. He had his pork belly bites with peach and Vidalia onion. Amazing. Also had some crepes. Just a really great spread. Eric does an amazing job, and it was great to see him get recognized for all he does. Remember that you can join the movement for grilling enthusiasts at deadmeatsociety.com. Outdoor Kitchen Creations. Check out our social accounts yesterday. Afton's dad, Barry, was showing the full extent of what Outdoor Kitchen Creations can do for you. Some of their gear is just insane. You can learn more about their entire offerings and how they can help build your backyard kitchen at backyardtrends.com. And then finally, Valley Road Vineyards, off of I-64 between Harrisonburg and Richmond. Mention JMU Sound Off at Valley Road, and you'll get 50% off your wine flight. And with that, we're going to bring on Afton Sonneman and Taylor Atkins. Michael Evangelista is somewhere, probably near a Buc-ee's on his way back to Virginia. The man is always jet setting. He will be back in the fold next week. I also know he's going to be joining me in Atlanta for the Georgia State game. So, gentlemen, a big win for the Dukes. I'm going to start with you, Afton. I got a chance to see you at the tailgate lots. Your dad's brisket with some pretty fire barbecue sauce. Just your general thoughts on what was a spectacular tailgate. A little wet, but still a pretty amazing day all around in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun day. Even with the rain, tailgate was still really good. We had the tents up. And in the game, at some point, we were just so soaked, it didn't even matter. We just started having fun with it. It was a fun day. Good to see the Dukes have a dominant win. I thought that last week against Liberty, we were very close to a big blowout win. I think this was the win. I think we're basically clicking on all cylinders going into the Georgia State week. It was a fun day in the rain.
Well, Afton, I know you're friends with Shelton and the Hedricks as well. Amazing green beans yesterday. They deserve a mention on the podcast. I texted him. Just I can't get him off my mind. It was great to see your whole family as well as your mom, who can finds a way to always be our camera person. So shout out Lillian. Love what you do in that regard. Taylor, got a chance to sit and watch the game with you. Just a great day all around. Your son was in attendance. Always fun. I got a great video of him throwing a streamer, which means there was a touchdown celebration that we were able to enjoy together. Kind of your high-level thoughts. There were some dignitaries in attendance yesterday. Just a really great Parents Weekend all around.
Yeah, I got to share the game with my buddy Rob and his son Bryce. Wet, but the crowd was great. I mean, I think early in the first quarter, I looked up corner to corner on every side of the stadium, and we saw a packed Bridgeport Stadium. I know it was family weekend, but I think at this point, family weekend is no longer the draw. I think just the fact that, Louisiana's almost sold out itself. There's no homecoming or family weekend attached to that. And so Great crowd. The only thing I'll say, and you've seen this on social media sometimes, is JMU over the last few years, it's starting to get the reputation of, no one stays past halftime. Now, listen, by all means, I get it. It was wet in a blowout. They leave. First game this year, Weber State, blowout FCS school. They leave. So I'm not saying the reasons aren't good. I get it why some people are leaving. But at some point, that reputation kind of continues to stick with us. And so I'm hoping with a conference game against Louisiana, cross your fingers for good weather. Would love to see the crowd just continue to be there, blowout or not, and just continue to pack Bridgeforth and make that an intimidating atmosphere for all 4 quarters.
Yeah, and just in general, though, yesterday was our first opportunity to avenge a loss from last season. I know that was on the minds of this coaching staff, on the minds of many of the players who were here last year, getting an opportunity to show Clay Helton's bunch that we had learned a lot of lessons yesterday. And there were still a lot of questions going into yesterday's game. I think as kind of we kick off our recap, one of the questions going in was the health of our running back group. That was something that was a talking point all week and really all season has been the depth of our running backs at JMU is going to be our strength. But as we made our way towards kickoff, it was not only George Pettaway that was not going to be able to go yesterday. Io Adehi also out. And that means we got to see a heavy dose of both Wayne Knight and for the first time really all season, Jordan Fuller. And that's where I want to kick it off as kind of our offensive look back at yesterday. What a performance for Jordan Fuller. 16 carries, 137 yards, and a touchdown. That went along with Wayne Knight's 19 and 151 and a score on the ground. A big day for the Dukes rushing offense, and that has me and many fans really excited about the potential for this group because, again, we continue to see the roadmap, and that's before you even get to, we had some touchdowns called back. Alonzo could have had what I think was an 80-yard plus touchdown opportunity on the ground. A big day for our offensive line and everyone that carried the ball.
Yeah, I think you touched on it with the 3 running backs out, Joey Mallory, Io Day, and George Pettaway. You hate to see people go down, but you love to see people step up like Jordan Fuller did. Jordan Fuller, you said, had 137 yards and 1 touchdown. That's 8.6 yards a carry. That's phenomenal. You said Wayne Knight, he had 151 yards, 1 touchdown. That's 7.9 yards a carry. That's super good. And then the Alonzo touchdown that you said, it would have been like an 85, 81-yard touchdown. That would have been, if that didn't get called back, that would have been 3 100-yard rushers against Georgia Southern coming after a loss last year where we couldn't run the ball at all. So I think that's super impressive. I hope to see Aday, Pettaway, and Joey Mallory come back soon. But I also do love to see Jordan Fuller, Alonzo Barnett, and Wayne Knight all get involved in the running game super heavily.
And for me, I just the thing about yesterday that was so impressive from just the running attack is the way both Jordan Fuller and Wayne Knight ran the ball in different ways. Obviously, Wayne shows his speed off every time he gets the ball in his hands. He also added, by the way, yards through the air as well, which is to show his diversity in the backfield. He can not only carry it, but he can catch swing passes out of the backfield and be a real weapon. But his ability to hit the corners and use that speed was evident. But he also, again, ran very hard between the tackles and it not going down on that initial point of contact. And just a patient running back who was able to find holes in the defense and break some long runs. I thought that was incredibly impressive. But the thing for Jordan Fuller that stood out to me is he is just a guy who does not go down. I know there was some push to the offensive line about, hey, get behind me and just kind of push me forward and we'll get extra yards. And that's the thing for me that I saw in the game yesterday is that he is going to, he may be 4 yards on his initial contact. He's going to turn that into 6 because he seems to always fall forward. And that is going to be an incredible weapon going into the heart of Sunbelt play if we can continue to get those little bit of extra yards. And that's what Coach Chesney in his post-game comments really mentioned was that it was our ability to stay on schedule on first and second down that really opened up the playbook and made a lot of those third down situations manageable. And that's after what was a little bit of a slow start. We had some drop passes. We had some moments where it could have been a game where you go, all right, is the offense going to really be able to get it clicking today? But they showed real resilience, and that's something that the Coach Chesney highlighted in his post-game comments, and that's now 2 weeks in a row where the offense has been very resilient and shown that they're not going to let some early setbacks kind of throw off their game plan and what they want to do.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just the fact that they when you have these rainy games, I mean, that the passing game is going to take a hit, and that's for any team. So they knew we were going to run the ball. And we had the two running backs that were in there yesterday. I mean, they were just hitting the holes. There wasn't a lot of dancing. There wasn't a lot of trying to, change direction. It was just, bruising runs into these defensive lines. And that's what I love most about Wayne Knight. Matter of fact, go back to that Liberty game last week. There's that one touchdown where Wayne Knight was stopped at like the 1 or 2 yard line. And then he just drove the D line into that end zone to score that touchdown. And you just saw a lot of that with these two guys. And this is another storyline that took place last year. You know, we were down 2 or 3 running backs last year early in the year, and we had the guys step up. So to have this depth, I think that we talked about that a lot in the preseason, the depth of this backfield, and hoping that we didn't need the depth to its fullest, but we do. And you're now seeing 2 guys that were not projected probably in the top 2 early in preseason, clearly performing at the level that not only good enough to be, at the top of the game for this team, but really 2 of the top running backs in the conference right now. So I think that's what impressed me, was that we were able to run the ball so well, and they knew the run was coming. They were stacking guys in the box. And we were still able to pull off over 330 yards rushing in a game that, we needed that rushing attack to be there with the weather the way it was.
Well, and one thing Michael wanted us to highlight as a part of today's broadcast was that we also brought in some interesting formations again. So creativity from Dean Kennedy, utilizing our 2 tight ends as blockers, kind of a formation that we had shown in 2023 versus South Alabama from Kurt Signetti, is kind of a, just a different way to give defenses a different look. And I thought that was good to see yesterday is that we're continuing to tweak what we show opposing defenses. Lakota Dupree also has another big day yesterday, 2 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown. He is continuing to grow in his role of being a real weapon for this offense, but also showed the ability to be a tremendous blocking tight end as well for this offense. That to me was something that is, yes, rightfully so. There's a tremendous amount of focus on our ability to run block yesterday, but we continue to see this offense's ability and the line's ability to be efficient in pass blocking. After just kind of your thoughts early on what you saw from the passing game yesterday in an environment which was not easy to throw in. Alonzo does go 11 for 22 for 148 through the air yesterday, but he again had to deal with conditions and some early drops. The Dukes did stick with the passing game, and it turned out to be something that was very positive for this offense, because we did see some pretty big plays through the air.
Yeah, I think early there's a lot of drops, a lot of missed throws from Zoe, but mostly a lot of drops from the receivers that weren't his fault. So he did go 11 for 22. That's 50%. But I think almost half of those you could blame not on the receivers, but just on the weather conditions. It was the first rainy game of the year. So you could see receivers one drive with gloves on, one drive with gloves off, because they just don't know what the circumstance is going to be this year with it being the first rain game. And I think it was a lot unlike last year, where the receivers and Zoe, they didn't start the game off well. But in general, usually the past couple of years, we start the game off hot. We've come out on fire, and then it slows down after something doesn't go well. So I think this was a good way to see the resilience of this team in a different way that we saw against Liberty, because we had a really good first drive against Liberty. But the first couple of drives yesterday were super slow, but I think the receivers and the quarterback room, they all stuck to the game plan. And the running backs I think the running backs lifted up the receivers and the quarterbacks to get them going, and the receivers really cleaned it up. Not a lot of drops after the first couple of drives. Landon Ellis had a big day. He had, I want to say 40 yards, I think. And then you said Dupree with a big touchdown, second straight week with a touchdown. So I'm just proud of the resilience, even after a bad first drive with a couple of drops. And I think the running backs really helped the receivers get going.
Yeah, I wasn't too concerned with the QB play yesterday. The one concern I did have was that Landon Ellis on the sideline over there that caught that pass that I think everyone in the stadium thought was an interception. The defensive back just mistimed it. But yeah, a lot of those drops, they happened early in the game when the rain was going. They happened. I think there was one later in the game, maybe a wide receiver screen down on the end of the field where the Plecker Center was. That was when the rain started to pick back up again. I looked at John, and I think John and I said the same thing earlier in the game, that at the end of the game, it's still hard to glean a lot from this game, just because of the weather, because of the way, Georgia Southern has not been performing well. They did have that win against Jacksonville State, but I think that's more to say about, just what Conference USA is looking like in terms of quality of teams there. But yeah, I think I'm becoming a broken record at this point in saying, I've said this for the 4th or 5th week in a row, we still don't know what this team looks like. And I know that probably some people listening are being like, man, those homers on Sound Off, they just won't admit, what it is. But here's my reasoning behind that is, again, we went through the first 2 games. You had the 2 quarterback system, so you really weren't playing as the game was. We saw Alonzo struggle a little bit in the first half of Liberty, but he really turned it on the second half once he got it kind of his feet under him and got into this routine of playing a full game. And now you come into Georgia Southern, it's like, all right, he has a full game under his belt. We're 4 games into the season. Let's see it. And you just got to admit, the weather's just a huge factor. Okay, I don't think that's fair to judge our passing game with the weather we saw yesterday. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, for good weather at Georgia State and for Alonzo to go out there and play a team. Obviously, Georgia State is struggling a lot this year, so I expect a solid performance there. But again, also the way that we're running the ball and putting up 300 plus yards of rushing. You don't really need to put the ball up in the air a whole lot. I think I said earlier before the show started that, our offense we're averaging 6 yards per pass attempt. We're averaging 5.4 yards per rushing attempt. So, to take that gamble and take that risk when those stats are practically the same, give it to the guys in the backfield and give it to those our 2 quarterbacks that have the chance to make some moves with their feet.
Yeah, we are. And one thing I want to also say on the offense from a positive perspective is we're seeing a rotation of offensive line. So we're having a number of players continue to be able to see the field, which is keeping our line fresh, which I think is why we're seeing our offense really kind of take over games in the second half, which is something that I've been really excited to see. I do want to say something on Alonzo from a positive perspective that is becoming apparent. That throw that he threw into the end zone to, I believe, to Lakota Dupree was about as great of a strike you're going to see anybody throw. And you just see the confidence in him when he's able to deliver a football like that. And that was a thing of beauty yesterday. And so we've seen that 2 games in a row where his ability to kind of throw a fastball into the end zone for a touchdown. That's really exciting to see, because I think that just, to me, indicates his confidence is continuing to grow, his comfort in this offense. And that's been not only just exciting, but it makes me feel like his trajectory continues to go in the right direction, which is what you want to see. If there's a negative from yesterday, and it's something that I've seen mentioned in a couple different places, though, that is our penalties on offense that led to Alonzo's touchdown being taken off the board and impacted what could have been 2 additional scores to this offense. This has been something now that is a little bit of a trend, though, all season long, is penalties in key moments. That's something you have to think that Coach Chesney and the staff are going to try to continue to address, because whether it's personal fouls at the wrong moments, we have seen some pushing and shoving after whistles that we've been fortunate to not also get flagged on, but that is definitely something that if there is an area where it's becoming a concern, it is the penalties on offense, and hopefully that is something we can get corrected as we continue to move through Sunbelt play. I did want just one last thing on Georgia Southern. We'll get to the defensive side of the ball. Man, if you found your way into Georgia Southern Twitter yesterday, it was a dark place about their inability to stop the run, and that was a program last year that gave us some fits, and is a program I know we have a tremendous amount of respect for, but their fan base is clearly souring on Clay Helton and everything he's bringing from a defensive perspective, because it was rough yesterday.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's Georgia Southern and App State, I believe, are the only 2 teams that have beaten us twice since we've joined the Sun Belt. Yes. I mean, and so I think Marshall has beat us twice. Yes, they have. Okay. Ooh.
Oh yeah,
I was okay. Well, and I think those are the three of the programs that have a lot of history and a lot of tradition that we were really excited about joining the Sun Belt. So, Georgia Southern not having a great year, but this is historically and statistically, I mean, that is a program down there. I think I saw one of the quotes from when Helton got hired as the coach about making them, what was it, the Platinum Elite or something of the G5, and comparing to bringing the Georgia Southern program up to the Boise State level. I mean, the expectations are high down there. And so I understand why they're down. And I think JMU fans should feel good about, beating a Georgia Southern program like that the way we did yesterday.
Yeah, and you can tell our staff felt really good about it, because I think there were some question marks of how we would respond to this group after last year. Because I thought Coach Chesney in the lead up to this game said, that's not one of the games where, we had a lead and gave it up. He's like, they just beat us. And anytime that happens with a significant number of players coming back, You want to see what your team did, and we responded in a big way, and that was exciting to see. I will just say, because Michael sent the clip around it, for anybody who sees Jordan Fuller's touchdown where number 5 for Georgia Southern just kind of tapped out and had seemingly no interest in tackling before he went in the end zone. I kind of understand the Georgia Southern fans' reaction to that. That was a little bit rough to see. But again, pass protection continues to improve on offense as well. Just really, really pleased with the where this unit's going, and I think we haven't even come close to seeing what the ceiling is for JMU's offensive output. So good to see, and I expect, based off what we're seeing from Georgia State on defense, this could be another big week on the ground for the Dukes. I did want to transition to the defensive side of the game and kind of just start with Trent Hedrick, man. What a performance from him. 11 tackles, 6 solo, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection. Have yourself a day. Trent Hedrick from the Richmond, Virginia area. St. Chris. I know Afton's a big St. Chris fan. So whoever wants to take it, just what a performance on defense from the Dukes. They continue to be dominant in so many statistical categories and just have... That's really the area which has me so excited about where this season still can go for the Dukes, is we're just hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, you can go, Taylor.
I was just saying, 111 of their 197 yards came from Camden Brown, that Auburn transfer for them. I mean, so one guy is putting up well over half of their yards. And then when you look down the national, so, obviously all the games played yesterday, national rankings came out today. You look at where the Dukes are ranked nationally in some of these categories. I mean, they're 22nd in the country in points per game. I believe they're 3rd in total yards, just behind Mizzou and Oklahoma at 209 yards a game, 20th in rushing defense, 4th in passing yards on the defense. And they're just behind Oklahoma, Alabama, and Nebraska. 6th in pass efficiency defense, and the 7 sacks that we had yesterday propelled us up to 12th in the nation for sacks per team. And then I was even doing a little bit deep dive, and I want to shout out to Shane from the DNR for his statistic about 21.5% of our season's rushing yards came from that one play from Louisville when the running back had that, I believe, 68-yard run. I'm ballpark in there. I think that's the statistic, but I went even a little bit deeper. 17% of the total yards our defense has given up all year were those 2 long plays at Louisville, the long pass and the long run that they had. So you take those 2 away, and you can't take those 2 away. It's part of the game. But I mean, our defense is not giving up drives. Even in that Louisville game, there was only 1 drive that they really scored on. And when you have more points than the team has rushing yards, I'd call that a good day, and that's exactly what happened yesterday against Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I'm going to start it off with my high school Benedictine did on Friday beat Trent Hedrick's alma mater, St. Chris. So I had to let him know about it. We all make mistakes. He went to St. Chris, but it's okay.
You did point out if Trent had been there, it might have been a different day.
Yeah, there might have been. It might have been. But we all make mistakes. He went to St. Chris. I'm over that because he did have a big day yesterday. 11 tackles, 3 sacks. And not only did he have 3 sacks, the team had 7 sacks. The team had 10 tackles for losses, and he is the head of this defense. He's the reason why that happened. And if you think running for 343 yards is impressive against Georgia Southern, how about holding them to 32 rushing yards? Just like Taylor said, we scored more points than what they had rushing yards. That is super impressive. In the second half, we held them to -5 rushing yards. J.C. French did have a good day. He only threw for 165 yards. And he had a 23.3 QBR. That is very, very low. And I expect this defense to look the exact same next week against a team that's very like Georgia Southern, with Georgia State not really being able to run the ball, not really being able to stop the run either. And I expect it to be a lot like what happened yesterday.
I want to go to one moment, though, on defense first, which I thought in many ways there's probably 2 candidates for the play of the game. But one in particular was the play that Trent Hedrick made after we had the high snap that goes over our punter's head. He's able to get off a punt better than going in the end zone, I guess. That could have been even more disastrous. But Georgia Southern gets the ball in JMU territory. They get to a 4th and 1, and Trent Hedrick's able to kind of break through the line, break off a block, and then get a hold of a leg and keep him from making the 4th down. Chesney said after the game that would have probably gone for 7 if they're able to pick up that 1st down. And that was a moment where the outcome was still a little bit in doubt, but Again, this defense finds a way to step up when they're needed most. And I just thought that was exciting to see. And to get 7 sacks yesterday, when in the early season there was some question marks about if we were going to have a pass rush. There were some accounts and people online saying, well, what is this Duke's defense going to be able to do with all we lost last year? Aiden Gabriel continues to be able to make his presence felt, and so many others on this defensive line continue to find ways to contribute. Our linebackers continue to get involved in the game in a big way, and then we're seeing continued growth from this secondary. It's really, I mean, you could kind of pick which level of the defense to highlight. They're all performing, and this is the blueprint now for success for JMU football going forward in this season, is a defense that is dominant and giving your team the ability to put themselves in good position, and an offense that continues to progress. It's just so many different ways you can highlight success from this unit, and it's really kind of central to where we're trying to go.
Yeah, statistically, we haven't faced a strong passing attack except the Louisville game. So in the Louisville game, Miller Moss went 13 for 23, had 151 yards, again, 78 on that one play. But since the JMU game, he's had back-to-back 300-plus yards, including the game yesterday against Pitt. So we have seen a good passing attack. And we've seen that we were able to shut that down and cut those yards in half compared to the next 2 games he had after us. But I do think that the sample size needs to be bigger. So, out of our 4 games, we've only seen one game that really has shown, or one team that has really shown that they have a strong passing attack. I think we've shown what we could do against Louisville. But it will be interesting when we come into some of these games later in the season where the passing game is stronger than what we saw out of Weber State, Liberty, and Georgia Southern.
Yeah, John talked about it, the defensive line. I think we're all sitting here early in the year saying who's going to be the Eric O'Neal, who's going to be the Kyrie Mans. And honestly, I don't think we have one this year, because I think the whole team, the whole defensive line, they're playing as a team. We're rotating more, and we don't have one standout that just looks so good and is going to go on to NFL star, because they all look like that. They all look that good. And you look at the special teams play. We've had positives and negatives in the special teams. John called it. John called the touchdown this week for Curtis Harris-Lopez. But one of the negatives was the snap over Patrick Gray's head, and that punt ended up going completely sideways. But instead of the defense being like, we have to go right back on the field, what are you doing, special teams? They went right out there and got a 4-and-out. Georgia Southern didn't even get a first down. They started on the 15. That could have cut it to a 10-point game. Instead, the opposite happened with Trent Hendrick, as John said, getting a big stop. And then the positive was exactly what John called. Curtis Harris-Lopez in his first touch ever for JMU. He's a corner. You might have seen him on some of my top 5 lists from Holy Cross. That's the first time he's touched a football as a James Madison Duke, and it was an 88-yard kick return for a touchdown. Phenomenal stuff from the special teams and the defense all around.
Well, and let me point out to your fact about where we just talked about how we're 12th in the country of sacks. That's 13 sacks, but it's coming from 9 different players. Yeah. So again, it isn't Eric O'Neal or Jalen Green or someone just racking up sacks. I mean, Trent Hendrick has 3. You got Bush and Gabera with 2 each. Everyone else, it's spread across 9 different players in our defense. And so if I'm the offensive coordinator trying to plan for a game where you have that many guys capable of coming in the backfield and disrupting it, that I'd almost rather would have that defense. And I think who was it a couple of weeks ago that mentioned, it might have been Michael, talking about some of Mickey Matthews' defenses and why some of his players never got some of the national accolades that they really deserved, was because the defense was so spread out with so many good players and you couldn't hone in on just that one guy. I think we're seeing that again. And I mean, this is right now statistically one of the best defenses in almost every category, top to bottom, especially coming off who can get in the backfield and cause disruption.
Well, and I want to point out, because we're going to have Michael do this as kind of like an internet extra breakdown, is he wanted to really highlight is what he has seen from Coach Hitchler in terms of the scheme. Is that it's not just the players performing well, but schematically and the way we're kind of lining up is causing opposing offenses real fits in terms of knowing who's going to break through the line to block. Yep. And I think when you have, as to your point, so many different contributors performing at such a high level, it just is a nightmare to have to game plan against. So look for that this week, as I'm going to see if I can get him to kind of break down some of the things we're seeing. I know we talked about a NASCAR package that we had yesterday. So lots and lots of really good things to see. I did want to go back to special teams, though, for 1 second, because I think your point is right. We did have a missed field goal yesterday as well. Anytime you're kicking in the rain like that, it is a challenge. So don't don't want to go too hard on that, but we do see a big moment in the game. Curtis Harris Lopez gets the 88-yard return. And I don't know if I've seen personally since he's been here, Coach Chesney, as animated as he was on the sidelines. He kind of navigated his way through the sea of players that were mobbing Harris Lopez in the end zone. He just really raved about him post game of, he was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of New Hampshire, what he's meant to this team. Remember, he was not our starting returner, but due to injuries, has kind of been thrust into that role. That was a massive moment inside Bridgeport Stadium yesterday, and it was kind of when we hit that, that's where you kind of thought this is going to be a good day for JMU when you saw him cross the goal line. We had been kind of talking about a year. We kind of expected to see a big returns in special teams. We get it yesterday. Huge moment inside Bridgeport.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a really big moment, and you saw the Georgia Southern coach talk about it. They were trying to kick away from Braden Wislowski, so like they didn't even think that there was a chance of Curtis Harris Lopez taking that 88 yards to the house. And Wayne Knight wasn't in for whatever reason as a kick returner. Pettaway's obviously hurt. Wislowski's is the next up after that. They didn't want to kick to him because of his dangerousness he had at Maryland with the kick returning at UVA. And then they kick to Curtis Harris Lopez, and he takes it to the house. So if you're any other team in the Sun Belt, you basically are like, we don't want to kick it to anybody because every single player on our return team has a chance to take it to the house.
Yeah, I've seen enough from the first 4 games where I see the weapons, I see the personnel that we have on special teams. I guess for me, it's just wanting to continue to see improvements on the execution. I think we've highlighted it a couple of times. We've been fortunate where we've not been in a position where, it's coming down to a 1 or 3 point game where special teams kind of makes or breaks it. I've seen improvement. Obviously, loved the return yesterday. We just got to continue to see the emphasis on special teams, because as we do get into games like we're steamrolling towards, and then 3 weeks with this Old Dominion game, and Washington State's starting to come on strong here lately, especially some of those games at the end. App State's always going to be a tough game no matter what. Those are the games where special teams is going to win or lose that game.
Yeah. So all in all, a good day. And again, and this yesterday, what I think is important, just about any win on a parents' weekend, is that in a lot of situations, that's the first time somebody's ever seen a JMU football game in Bridgeport Stadium. And if they were there for the first half, I thought the band was great yesterday. The production value continues to improve. But one thing we noticed is by the band now, there's those smoke cannons. If they've been there for a while, yeah. I know I personally had not noticed them. So that's just another addition to the atmosphere. Shout out to the students. Yes, we want them to stay longer. But I did think that they were impactful yesterday, and that's just a continued credit to. I don't know if 10 years ago, if the students are rolling deep at the start of a game with the weather we were dealing with. So yes, there's room to improve. There's room to grow. But, going to give credit to where credit was due, because I did think I was really impressed just across the board in general yesterday in the first half with a tremendous performance, a big win. And there are no easy conference wins. That's kind of the bow I want to put on this, as we saw last year, as we've seen around the country. You just never know how conference games are going to go. So to get to 1-0 in conference play, it sets the stage. For now, we have a path to continue to go where we want to go, which is the Sun Belt East title, and then have our chance to compete for the overall Sun Belt title, which again, everything remains in front of us, and we continue to improve, which is what you want to see. Afton, before we go to our Georgia State profile, we've had an opportunity each week to do a kids pick segment. You continue to be our available kid this week, as both of our kids, Taylor and I, have commitments today. So last week's kid pick didn't go as well, but since you're a kid, you're learning, you're growing. Notre Dame did, in fact, dispatch their opponent this week pretty handily. Did you have a redemption pick for your kids pick this week?
I have 4 picks, so one of them will come as a redemption.
One of them's going to hit.
We're going to start in the Sun Belt Conference. The one out-of-conference game is ULM is going to Northwestern, a 2-2 Big Ten team. That's not a good start. ULM is sneaky. They're sneaky. Watch them. And then Charlotte USF. You never know. Chaos. The 49ers could do wonders for the group of 5 by just saying, USF, you know what?
There you go.
You're out. And then me and Taylor will be attending a game on a 2-game win streak, a team on a 2-game win streak The Virginia Tech Hokies.
I'm sure somebody's mentions are going to get
worse.
I'm not proud of that. I'm gonna hear from that people on that. Thanks for outing me.
Hey, well, you know what? We're in it together, and we will see. Maybe, in my opinion, my pick, a 3-game win streak going after this game. The Hokies are back. They're back.
I'll say this. I don't think Charlotte has a chance of beating USF, except the only thing that has defined this college football season so far is chaos. So while I don't think they have a chance, there's also part of me that goes, it would just make sense for Charlotte to knock off USF next week.
Well, Taylor, do you think they cover the 26.5 point spread?
Yes, absolutely.
My last pick, UVA is getting all this built up hype. They just beat number 8 in the country. Me and John have been talking about it. Their fans came late to the game. Taylor was saying, "Oh, this is such a great crowd." No. Let's get it straight. UVA told their students when there was 2 minutes left that they might win a football game. So they brought them into the stadium to rush the field because it's a rare scene in Charlottesville for this to happen.
I'm here for the UVA Thunder right now. That was not a great crowd. I'm with you after.
It was not a good crowd. It wasn't at all.
Number 8 team in your building, 3-1 record. Come on,
it's like the best fill
the upper bowl, guys. Come on. You have all your alumni live within an hour of campus, basically.
Oh, that's not true. Come on now.
They're all there. They're all in Charlottesville, Louisa.
Make
Richmond.
Me defend the UVA, but
there's a Whole Foods right around the corner, so they can get their kombucha and get in the stadium. Come on, there's no excuse.
It was half Florida.
I'm trying to give you an out. I'm just trying to give you an out. You're going to get crap for the Tech. You already get crap for OD. You just say, we're right.
If you paint it in the sense of that UVA should have brought a better crowd with the momentum they have to start the season, and number 8, 1,000% I agree with you. However,
that's the show for today, everyone.
Listen, I'm gonna give. I got to put some context to this. They've had 2 or 3 decades of awful football. I mean, they don't have season ticket a lot of season tickets. So they just have people that have to buy single game tickets to this game. It's a Friday night.
Available at Costco.
Wait, they didn't even buy single games. Florida State fans bought the single ticket.
The UVA president wouldn't even cancel classes or open up the lots until like 5 o'clock. Listen, the football culture there just doesn't exist. So I'm going to try and give UVA some credit to draw 50,000 people. Now, as I mentioned, the statistic going around on Twitter was that it was the largest crowd since, drum roll please, the 56,000 people that witnessed the JMU game where they beat UVA. So all I'm saying, if the UVA administration is listening, which we all know they do, I know all of UVA's admin turns into Sound Off every week. They need to put JMU on the schedule if they want to put butts in the seats. It's as simple as that. So, and we'll even do a 2-for-1, but you got to come over the mountain and play in Harrisonburg.
Those ticket deals at Costco are probably going to be more popular now that they have.
Oh gosh.
So I'm going to get back to the point here.
There you go. Off the rails.
All these fake fans, the Florida State fans filling up their stadium, they're going to get killed by Louisville this weekend at 3:30 on ESPN.
Can we also point out
Louisville, Kentucky? Chandler Morris couldn't even handle his own 30,000 UVA people, 20,000 Florida State people. He couldn't even handle it. Imagine what's going to be like when he
quickly to bring this back to JMU. Louisville had a rough start to their game yesterday.
Yes,
they did.
Big comeback win for them. They continue to, loss to Louisville for us, not hurting us yet. They continue to have success.
Not going to this week because they're going to roll over those Cavaliers, and there's going to be no UVA white people.
Louisville could be playing Oregon or Ohio State, and Afton would be getting on here and talking about how Louisville is going to come in and beat them by 2 touchdowns.
When you have the best running back in the country, you can do anything you want.
Here we go.
He's transparent. It's
just the Louisville Sound Off all of a sudden.
There we go. Hey, anyway. We want them. Remember, every one of our opponents, when we play them, we want them to win after we play them. So
don't worry.
Go Louisville, go Cards.
This one's going to be an easy one for the Cardinals.
There you go. I like that. Get your UVA ticket to Costco. All right. This week, the Dukes travel on the road to the beautiful city of Atlanta, Georgia. Last time we went to Atlanta, Taylor and I saw the sights and sounds of the city. We
broke a rib.
Taylor broke a rib when he caught a pass at the.
I shouldn't say break a rib. Hairline fracture, but it was still painful.
He was injured. He played through it. Played through the pain. Resilient podcast host. We kicked some field goals. We went to a CVS. We saw everything that downtown Atlanta had to offer. Some good restaurants. Taylor had some
This is the most like JV thing. I don't like trashing other programs, but when you walk, I don't know if they still have it, but Georgia State had this giant banner hanging on their stadium of "We beat Vanderbilt." Like it was a banner dedicated to beating a lower tier. I know Vanderbilt's doing really good this year and last year, but at the time, it's just a banner. I mean, it kind of reminds me when I see Liberty fans talk about they beat Syracuse, and you pull up, well, how good was Syracuse here? Well, they were 1-10, so it's just. Note to JMU, I never want to hang a banner for beating a single team. And if I don't think anyone disagrees with me, but if they do in the administration, they're wrong. But
well, stage, it's a game against a 1-3 Georgia State team. They are coming off a 70-21 loss against Vanderbilt. And there are other games this season. They have a 37-21 win over Murray State. They have a 38-16 loss to Memphis and a 63-7 loss opening day against Ole Miss. For those who made the trip yesterday, I will say Georgia State is a stadium that I found to actually be a great place to watch a game. Not necessarily a tremendous atmosphere per se,
right.
but a walkable concourse where you can kind of pick your spot to kind of stroll as the action goes on. So I'm definitely excited for the trip. I have no doubt that there will be a good collection of JMU fans in Atlanta, the hometown of Zach Price. They also have a quarterback, though, that is leading this offense in TJ Finley. This is his sixth college football program that he has been a part of. So every week we find new stats that make it just go.
I hate that statistic exists in college football. I'm just going to put it out there.
I would actually be an interesting challenge. I'd love to know if there's somebody out there that likes that stat. Yeah, Afton, anything about this matchup other than I think all of us will likely agree in that this is a game, especially coming off of a Parents Weekend game, when you go back on the road, you're really looking at yourself as the key opponent and making sure that you're fixing your issues, you're continuing to go in a positive direction. But JMU's opponent in a lot of ways is going to be JMU. And for me, at least, is that if we take care of business, do what we're capable of doing, this should be a game where we come out with a win. This is a team that's giving up a significant amount of yards on the ground, so that matchup appeals to us. What stands out to this from your perspective in your early analysis of this matchup?
Yeah, well, I'm going to pull Coach Chesney. It's the day after a win. I have not done too much film on the Georgia State Panthers, but what I do know is they're a lot like Georgia Southern. They give up a lot of points, they give up a lot of rushing yards. Their only win is the FCS game. They hung in there with Memphis, who seems to be pretty good this year. TJ Finley, we probably have some film on him because he was at Western Kentucky last year. And even though he opted out of the bowl game, he opted out late. So, we could have had some film on him, been, trying to prepare for him in the bowl game, even though he didn't end up playing. But he seems like a solid quarterback. He's really tall. I know Taylor knows exactly how tall he is. How tall is he, Taylor?
6'7".
I know Taylor's been waiting for that the whole show. But
is this what you do with your hands? I don't know.
The main thing I'll say,
I'm over 40 now. As Taylor knows, you can just claim I'm too old for that. I don't know. I still don't understand it.
The main thing I'll say is just don't look ahead in the games. I know we have a whiteout the week after Georgia State. That's exciting. But Louisiana hasn't played that well. Even though the preseason front runners in the West, they haven't played well. So if I'm looking at anything you said it yourself. We got to look at ourselves. We cannot be looking forward to the whiteout, and especially we cannot be looking forward to a big homecoming game against ODU that could end up being the biggest game of the season. I think we just have to focus game by game and realize that anybody in this conference can beat us, because that did bite us last year. To me, it felt like last year we were looking forward to a couple opponents. We're looking forward to a couple games that maybe there's going to be a big crowd, there's a whiteout crowd, and then we end up dropping a game we shouldn't have. So I think that's kind of a key this week. We know after yesterday that we are a better team, but we need to play like we're the better team.
Oh, 100%. I mean, last year we were 4-0, and I was not only looking past ULM, I was not even acknowledging that ULM was even on the schedule. Matter of fact, that was the weekend that I went to that music festival, and I'm like, I'm not even going to be mad that I'm not watching the game because it's ULM. I'll just keep track of the score. And to be honest, same thing with Georgia Southern last year. I going into that game, I was like, man, we stumbled against ULM, but let's get past this Georgia Southern team to get through to the regular game, to the games that I'm more concerned about. And And yeah, so I mean, as far as Georgia State, look, they're dead last in the Sun Belt in both offensive yards. No, I'm sorry, in both yards allowed and points given up by their defense. So I'm looking for our offense to have a big breakout game. It wouldn't surprise me if once again, our rushing yards far outpace our passing yards, because I think with a defense like Georgia State's,
they're giving up 227 yards a game on the ground so far.
Yeah. And so I think if we have low output in our passing game, again, I'm not going to really attribute that to a lack of passing game, but if you're able to get 5 or 6 yards per carry running the ball, not a lot of reason to put it in the air. Now, I will say they are top 4 in the conference, and as Afton mentioned, seeing some pretty good competition. They're top 4 in the conference, averaging 238 yards per game in the air. So we talked about, what can our defense continue to do against teams that pass well. Right now, Old Dominion averaging yards per game is 5th in the conference, only 230 yards per game, but they're leading the conference at 9.3 yards per pass attempt. So we need to see a good passing offense. I think we'll see a decent one in Georgia State this weekend. Louisiana is dead last, so that's another team where we're really not going to have a lot of prep in terms of testing our secondary. So in order to prepare for this Old Dominion game in a few weeks, we need to show out well against Georgia State and hold them to the low yardage that we've been holding other opponents earlier this year.
Awesome. Well, that is a kickoff at 3:30, I believe, is the kickoff in Atlanta. Okay, so I'll be making a trip. Michael will be making a trip. Again, there will be viewing parties, no doubt, in different locations.
Oh, yes. I do want to give a shout out. There will be a viewing party. I know down here in Roanoke, Virginia. I should have looked this up before. Jim Pomeroy, who's been very good at getting this chapter back and going, is going to be really mad at me that I forgot to look up the details about that. But do go on the JMU alumni website. They usually have lists of the away game watch parties, but we will put this out on social media. So I apologize for not looking this up in advance. I was supposed to, but there's one down here in Roanoke. I do know there will be several others around the region. So check those out. And John, maybe we can go on our social media and look up where those are being put out and share that this week.
And remember, even if you can't get to an official viewing party, if you're watching with one other Duke, it's a viewing party. So find a Duke in your community, your family, your friendship group to watch this game, and hopefully the Dukes take care of business and get to 4-1. I want to ask you before we just do kind of our final news and notes segment for the week. Anything else that stood out in yesterday's college football action that you want to highlight? I know obviously a lot of fans probably had their eyes on the ODU Liberty game. Kind of tough again to glean a lot from that, is the weather was pretty atrocious in Norfolk yesterday. It just didn't appear that Liberty had much of a threat in terms of the passing offense yesterday. They did not have their starting quarterback available for yesterday's game. ODU did have some turnover issues yesterday, which I think kept that game a little closer than maybe it would have been without that, because it really didn't feel like at any point in that game Liberty threatened. Just high level, anything from that game that stood out to you? Because that game is now, it just continues to grow in magnitude of what could potentially just be a monster outing in Harrisonburg in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like our game. It was a monsoon in the beginning. It dried up in the second half. I think Old Dominion was 2 or 3 fumbles in the red zone yesterday, and I think that has to do something with the weather. Once the weather kind of cleared up, you saw that Old Dominion, the score looked a lot closer than what I felt. I never really felt that Liberty was going to be able to come back and win that game. So I wonder in better conditions how that would have fared. But yeah, I think the whole we're talking about chaos. Virginia Tech beating that NC State team. Virginia Tech lost to Old Dominion. NC State beat UVA, but UVA beat Florida State. I mean, there's some website. Our buddy John Theobald years ago showed me a website. I think it's still around. It's like myteamcanbeatyourteam.com, and it basically will break down the transitive property to show how any team can beat any other team in the country. But yeah, there's just a lot of weird scores kind of going on earlier this year. And again, that transitive property can be used very easily to show how any team is better than any other team at this point.
Yeah, in the ODU game, I agree with both of you guys. I think ODU did look a lot better than Liberty. It was a lot like our game yesterday. It was kind of just a lot of fumbles, pretty sloppy. I think they looked good. The atmosphere was not great there, but you can't really blame them. And I saw a key theme, not in that game, but in the theme of college football this week, was road teams going into really tough environments and winning. You saw Oregon go to the whiteout and win. You saw Tennessee go to Mississippi State whiteout and win in overtime. You saw Bama go to Georgia and win. And you saw Tech go to NC State and win. I just thought that was pretty impressive that all the road teams this particular week were really locked in on playing in really big atmospheres and not being fazed by it.
Well, and I think one game to highlight that took place in the Sun Belt, and I'm trying to look up the exact stats right here as I'm on here, but Marshall blew a 17-point lead and lost to Louisiana in a shootout in overtime, 54-51. I know some Marshall folks, and they just seem really down. I think they were a little obviously their entire team transferred out last year. We knew it was going to be a tough year for Marshall, but it seemed like they got a really good coach. And I think there was a lot of optimism going into the season that they could have a better year than what was expected. But they're just having a tough time. And I'll be honest, Marshall's a rival. I want to beat them, but I kind of hate to see it because that is such a program with a fan base and a lot of history and tradition there. And it stinks they're in a tough spot just overall as an athletic program and football program with some of the losses they've had in coaching and things. And, would wish that Marshall had been able to kind of perform a little bit better in the out of conference than they have earlier this year.
And just one other Sun Belt game really quick, though, is the Boise State 47, App State 14 game.
Again, this is App State is not looking good. They're just not looking good, and that's not a game that I think should be a problem. But I didn't think last year's game against App State would have been a problem. So the App State game is always going to be with those games where the records go out the window. But when one of let's be honest, I think in terms of name recognition and national branding, App State probably has the most prolific name recognition in the Sun Belt because of what they were able to do before we got to FBS, and obviously their big win at Michigan years ago. And so when you're talking about the perception of conferences, it's kind of hard when a program like App State and like Marshall are not having good seasons, because it kind of gives the overall perception to the national media and the football landscape that the Sun Belt, which, let's be honest, the Sun Belt's just it seems to be a race right now between JMU, Texas State, and Old Dominion, and then there seems to be a big gap between those three and the rest of the conference.
Yeah, you just talked about JMU, Texas State, and Old Dominion. I know we all just said we can't look past game by game, but let's say we take care of business against Georgia State.
Fans can look bad. We can do whatever we want.
We can do what we want. So let's say we take care of business against Georgia State. We have a whiteout game against the preseason frontrunners in Louisiana, even though they haven't performed well this year. They did beat Marshall in overtime yesterday. So that's going to be a huge game. Then we have a pretty likely 5-1 versus 5-1 rivalry homecoming game. The winner of that game could represent the East title. And then right after that game, we have to go on a Tuesday, like 10 days after that game, to Texas State. Those three games are going to be massive for the rest of the year. And that Louisiana game and Old Dominion game, we're going to need all our fans out. We're going to need them to show up, show out, because we're going to need them against ODU and Louisiana, because ODU is a really good team this year, better than the years past. We've had some close calls with ODU the past couple of years, even though I feel like we've been a lot better. So I feel like they're probably thinking this is our year to beat JMU. So I think that stretch is going to be so big for us for the rest of the year.
Yeah, you have to think Ricky Ronnie's got the game circled in a big way, and if we are both 5-1, man, that's a game where
national recognition.
Yeah, I don't know how it doesn't get national attention or some sort of, maybe it's elevated to national TV, or it's it should be interesting. Taylor, I know you're somebody who's always good for some kind of general news and notes thoughts or any anecdotes from yesterday you wanted to kind of touch on before we wrap.
Yeah. Obviously there was a lot of buzz, and some people saw that Secretary of State Marco Rubio was at the game. And, anytime you have someone of that level in terms of national politics being at a game, it's kind of a big deal. What I think is neat, because I don't think a lot of people know this story, but as it was told to me from someone who spoke to Marco Rubio, was that the reason he ended up wanting to come and check out JMU was, he told this person, I've driven up and down Interstate 81 through so much of my career and have seen that stadium, just how massive it is. And it just always looked like a great place for college football. And he goes, and I've seen JMU on College game day and everything that they've done ever since moving to FBS. So I just had to find a way to get to a game. And since he was at the UVA game the night before, I'm sure he has a pretty busy schedule, but he saw an opening and he took it. And I just think that that's kind of neat that someone at that level with no connection to JMU, right? I mean, he's coming as a senator from Florida. He's not even regionally connected to JMU. It's simply through his travels on 81 and seeing the stadium, seeing the college game day appearances, seeing JMU's name continue to pop up as kind of that Boise State, App State-esque, we're one of those G5 programs that's continuing to make national headlines over and over again. I just think that's neat that we're at a place where just college football fans see a JMU game as something that they want to attend. It draws that level of interest to people that do not have a connection to the program, because for the longest time, our program has been defined. We've all known the gym that is JMU football, people who are connected to it. But once you got outside of that bubble, JMU was still talked about as quote unquote a small school or a lower tier school, just because they weren't familiar with it. Now you're at the point where people outside of the JMU community are recognizing it for what it is and kind of adding it to their bucket list of places they want to visit for a college football game.
Yeah, pretty awesome to see across the board, and it's been a kind of a sea of national figures recognizing JMU's growth over the last couple of years, and that's you can kind of really any corner of the internet or in the world, you can find somebody who said something good about JMU, and that means the brand is growing, and pretty exciting. Afton, any final thoughts from you just about anything yesterday or anything we have to look forward to?
I would just say the efficiency yesterday, we went 8 of 13 on third downs compared to their 4 of 14. If we keep that up, it's going to be a good season. I'd say let's get some purple down in Atlanta, because me and Taylor will have some purple in Lane Stadium. So just get some purple down in Atlanta. Bring JMU Nation down and get ready for a big couple weeks for JMU football.
Awesome. Well, anybody who's – oh, yeah, Taylor, your final –
Well, I as we were talking about, being at Lane Stadium, it is – let's take another step back. We talked about this 2 episodes ago about the state of FBS football in Virginia. Obviously, and this is not to smack talk Liberty, but they're kind of out of they're irrelevant in terms of the 2025 season at this point. So Liberty's kind of out of the conversation. But now you do have this kind of weird, like, where do the teams 1 through 4 between UVA, JMU, Old Dominion, Virginia Tech, kind of where they all rank? Everyone wrote off Virginia Tech 2 weeks ago, but then they have that win against NC State. I saw a lot of Virginia Tech fans tweeting out Virginia Tech is in first place in the ACC, which technically not wrong at 1-0 in this early in the, and I didn't really realize this until recently, but that NC State game that UVA played was not a conference game, so UVA is still technically 2-0. I had a buddy text me this morning, and he, like, we all talked about how this podcast sprung out of text group chats. Well, he has him and his Virginia Tech Hokie buddies, and they were saying that he's concerned that Virginia Tech will do a very Virginia Tech thing and hire Philip Montgomery as their head football coach if he can win 2 more games, which, we've had those kind of discussions as JMU fans. That's my buddy Jeff Scott that sent me that. But I think, where does the FBS landscape for FBS football in Virginia kind of go from here? UVA is in a position right now where, man, if they take advantage of this momentum, they can propel themselves to the top. JMU and Old Dominion both have an opportunity to show who's the best between those two in a couple of weeks. And Virginia Tech, I mean, I didn't have them beating NC State. I don't know if that's a one-off, or does Virginia Tech all of a sudden miraculously somehow turn around their season because, again, they're undefeated in conference. And so I just think it's neat that all 4 of those schools are kind of all in the same level of conversation when it comes to the FBS landscape in Virginia, and all 4 of those schools really control their own destiny on how they're viewed as the best program or best programs in Virginia.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff across the board. Guys, another great episode. Afton, Taylor, enjoy your trip to Blacksburg. I'll be rooting for Dukes. See you, Michael. I'm just trying to encourage more people to give you crap in the mentions.
This will be my first trip to Lane Stadium since JMU won in 2010. And I think that's a pretty incredible feat, considering I've been down in Southwest Virginia for almost 5 years now and have avoided making a trip there. But
I'm sure you'll have some purple on at some point in some way. JMU hat or something will be on. I know you. So, all right. Well, gentlemen, we'll mention our sponsors one more time. Skyline Financial Partners, Champions Drive, Bourbon, Where's Woody, Purple Nation, Shoker Enterprises, the Dead Meat Society, Outdoor Kitchen Creations, and Valley Road Vineyards. Thank you to them for their support of the show. It doesn't happen without them, and it's always appreciated. And then finally, thank you to our listeners. You make this show what it is. Got a chance to hand out some of our Sound Off cups yesterday. That was pretty cool to our winners. So there are some that are in the mail being shipped. So if you haven't received yours yet, stay tuned. They're coming. And with that, guys, it's another episode of JMU Sound Off. We'll be back next Sunday at 8 p.m. to break down the game against Georgia State. And with that, go Dukes, and we'll talk to you soon.